Attention. Due to the nature of the films discussed, the Civil Gore podcast may contain adult language and themes.
Hey everybody, welcome to Civil Gore. This is Minisode 2. As you know, we've been releasing some episodes while Brian and I are out theme park tripping.
Yes. Well, not theme park tripping per se, because we're not under the.
We gotta be careful with our terminology.
Yeah, other than maybe some beers at night, I don't think we're gonna be under the influence of much, other than just the pure adrenaline of riding a 325-foot tall roller coaster.
Right. As you may have heard from our previous Minisode episode, this is going to be another off-topic, off-format episode. And this time, we're going to talk about some local haunted places in our own hometowns.
I'm actually really excited about this episode, because this will be fun.
Yeah, this one should be really fun. My town is very historic. Wilmington is a really old town. It was one of the first in the colonies or whatever. I act like I know all the history. I don't. I just know it's really old. Just take my word for it.
I believe you.
Yeah. But so we got tons of historic buildings, and of course, anytime you have a place with a lot of historic buildings, you have a lot of ghosts.
Yes.
But first, we're going to run through. We don't have a first chop this week, but we are going to run through the dismemberment just because we know those Blu-ray releases and we want to get those out to you.
Yes, that will probably always be on every episode, no matter what.
Yeah. So the Blu-ray releases for June 13th. We have a couple of TV collections that are not super horror, but I threw them in there because people that like horror tend to like, TV shows that delve into the supernatural. So I put in Grimm, the complete collection, which I believe I watched the first season of Grimm. And I never kept up with it, but I enjoyed it. I liked it.
Well, I'll tell you, if we ever do with that, there's a brewery in our area named Grimm. So so we definitely have plenty of beer pairings for them.
Yep. And then the other one was the Vampire Diaries, the complete collection, which I know, again, it's more teen romance drama. But I actually watched the first 2 or 3 seasons of this one.
I've heard good things about it. I know a lot of people that love that. So yeah,
it's good. I liked it, but it wasn't enough that I wanted to finish watching the entire series. But for what it is, it's decent. Not very horror, but decent. We have Anomaly from 2016. Which I don't know a lot about, but it has a cool poster. Navy SEALs versus Demons, which you can imagine.
Now, is that the characters from Charlie Sheen's movie Navy SEALs versus, like, Night of the Demons, or is it just
Oh, that would probably be better than what this movie is.
Probably. Well, it's 2017, so it's recent at least. Well,
Madhouse from 1981. I love those early 80s horror movies. Inquisition from 1978.
Now all I can think of is the Mel Brooks, the Inquisition.
Yeah. Kill Baby Kill, 1966. Well, I used to love those. I love those titles they come up with for those old 60s movies.
Yeah.
And then the classic Don't Look in the Basement from 1973.
Now that would, I think that would be my wife Julie's favorite, but because she says that to everybody, but it's because I have so much clutter down there.
And cave crickets.
Yeah, and cave crickets. So yeah, there's cave crickets and my clutter. So she tells everyone, don't look in the basement. But it's more of a plea. It's like, please don't look in the basement kind of thing. But
the big theatrical release day, because we have The Mummy with Tom Cruise.
And I'm you know what? I saw a new trailer for this before Guardians of the Galaxy. And this actually, the new trailer I saw makes me really want to see this. And because I bought those 2 sets, I basically have $16 worth of movie cash. So essentially, you see it for next to nothing. If not, maybe give a couple of bucks in to see it, at a more opportune time, I guess. But if I ever see a matinee, it's probably going to be covered by my coupons there.
Well, like I mentioned, I may have mentioned on a previous episode, I know Tom Cruise is completely crazy, but I will watch anything Tom Cruise is in because I've never not enjoyed a Tom Cruise movie at some point.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, I mean, say what you will about him, but he does put out a good movie.
Yeah, and maybe he plays the same character in every movie, but who cares? All his movies are good.
Yeah, and
so I'll give it a chance.
And this looks actually really, really good. I mean, I remember those first trailers that went out for it. I was like, I remember it was like literally just a scene they showed on the plane, and I was like, okay, that's cool. But then this one I saw, this latest trailer I saw, had a lot of cool content in where they really show what the villain, the mummy character, was doing in it. And I'm like, wow, this looks actually really cool. So,
I think it's interesting they went the action route with the Mummy movies, even the Brendan Fraser ones, because I watched that Hammer, The Curse of the Mummies too.
Oh, right, yeah.
Which was decent. I mean, it was good, but it's like all those Mummy movies were kind of boring. Like not a lot happened. Because it's a mummy, what's it going to do, you know?
Right.
It walks around slow and, you know, might strangle somebody every now and again.
Maybe do an ad for Ace Bandage. I don't know.
Yeah. But that's kind of cool that they went with the action route and spiced those movies up, you know, made them more interesting.
Plus, it's got Sophia Boutella. I don't know if I told her name right, but she was one of the big highlights in the last Star Trek film. I thought she was great. So she looks really cool as the mummy-ess, I guess.
Yeah, I like the woman mummy was a cool choice.
Right. And she looks good in that role as she looks like really like cool and creepy. So I mean, actually, I gotta say, you know, it's you know, sometimes you wonder, you're like, why do they keep promoting this film? Well, you know what? Sometimes enough promotion and the right type of promotion will sway me, because I had no intention of seeing this in the theater. I just figured, I'll catch it. I'll probably end up buying it on Blu-ray, but maybe I'll catch it on when it comes out. But now I actually have a desire to go see this in the theater. So
we have two others. It Comes at Night and Camera Obscura, which I don't know about the movie, but there's a really cool band called Camera Obscura.
Is that no relation?
No relation, okay. But I'm gonna give them a plug because not a lot of people have heard of them.
There you go.
But they're really awesome. So go look up some videos.
And just to let them remember that if they ever make it big, or really big, they'll get us into for free because we promoted them.
Yeah, they've been around forever. They were formed in 1996.
Oh, okay.
But they're from the UK.
Oh, okay. Oh, so maybe our good friend Matt knows them.
Maybe Matt's heard of them.
We'll have to ask him next time we see him.
Yeah. Okay, so we're like we said, we're going to do some local haunts. So, Brian, you want to kick things off since you got more than I do?
Sure. Okay, so living in New York, there is tons and tons of different areas. In Westchester, I mean, Sleepy Hollow, for God's sake. I mean, but I figured on this episode, this would be our first one we do with this. I would focus on my immediate area of Long Island, and there's plenty to choose from there, to the point where I wanted to choose some of my favorites. Now, obviously, one of the most famous ones that everyone knows is Amityville Horror. You know, the house is on Long Island, and everywhere. Of course, it's one of those things that you meet someone on Long Island, and we're like, oh yeah, I knew someone that lived there, or knew someone that lived there. My brother's cousin, sister's babysitter, you know, kind of that thing. But everyone knows that story. Ronald DeFeo murdered his family, then the Lutz move in and experience paranormal activity, and then they made 75 movies based on it.
Yeah.
But
which the first one was actually really
the first one was amazing, and it probably should have stopped there. But either way, so I definitely did not want to choose that one because everyone knows that one. I wanted to kind of do some that may or may not have been heard of, although Tim said he did know some of this, the one I'm going to first talk about. It's basically, it's an area, and it's funny because I literally work 5 minutes from this place. I had to take this road once when I was going somewhere. It's basically a Sweet Hollow Road and Mount Misery. They kind of go together. I'm just going to talk about the Sweet Hollow Road portion of it. Sweet Hollow Road has 5 I think there's a couple more, but these are the 5 main ones that people talk about, the legends on here. So the first one is that 3 boys committed suicide by hanging themselves from the Northern State Parkway overpass. So basically this road goes at one point goes under the overpass of the Northern State Parkway, which is the main parkway on Long Island. So basically, the legend states that if you look up at the overpass while driving down the road, you can see 3 bodies hanging from it. Now, as far as I know, I don't think I went under the overpass. I know I drove along the side of the road, but I don't think I went under it, which is good because, it was daytime too. Most of the stuff they say is, it's got to be night to see this stuff, but it's just a creepy road to begin with. Although it's funny though, because if you just know the way the geography is in Long Island, just maybe like 5 minutes away is every single mall, store you can possibly imagine on Route 110. But anyway, so that's one of them, and one of the second ones is along the same kind of overpass that's affected, where a bus full of children driving over the Northern State overpass in a bad snowy weather condition one day Apparently, the driver lost control of the bus, and it killed everyone on board. Now, so they say so if you drive directly under the bridge and put your car in neutral, the children will come back and push your car under the bridge so no harm will come to you. And it's good to note that this right under there, it's kind of on an incline. So I remember this story before I even knew the details of it, but I knew a couple of friends that always kind of do this where they would go at night and literally park the car there in neutral, and you kind of and they'd feel the car roll up the hill, which I mean I've seen a lot of people, like I got a lot of these facts from the Long Island Paranormal Activity. I'll put the link for their site on there. They kind of like do their own little fact checking, kind of disprove some of it, but other people have accounts of this. So, and one of the things they always say is there's no record supporting this bus accident, which doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just they didn't find it, but whatever. So I think that's kind of a cool one because, you know, I'm sure there's like, if you want to be the person that is the naysayer to this all, they say, well, it's probably not really an incline. It's probably a decline, and it just looks like an incline. Yeah. But
is there any? Is this the one where like they'll put baby powder on the bumper?
I don't know. I didn't see that, but I know that's something. I don't know if that's part of this. It could be, you know, because there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot. Most of these stories, if you notice too, like because you had mentioned that in you know, in that other episode we did about the hotel you stayed at, where you know there's the basic facts, but every version of this story that gets told is a little bit of twist to it, depending on who's telling it. So, and this one's this next one part of it is I don't know, you know, this one seems like one of the most common ghost stories you always hear anyway, but it surrounds a lady in white, which always seems to be the
better than the woman in black.
True, yes. But and supposedly this woman was named Mary, and her and her boyfriend were driving down the road one night when they got into an argument. And then they say Mary jumped out of the car or was pushed out of the car while it was moving and is hit by another vehicle and killed. So rumors say that when driving down the road at night, you will see a lady in white who will jump in front of your car. And they say most say that she's the same Mary that you can see her grave in the nearby grave and tombstone in the nearby cemetery, which is just off that road. So that adds a little bit of creepy reality to it, I guess. And I got news for you. Just the thought I remember I was typing this down for the notes. I'm like, that's creepy. It's bad enough you usually see these, you know, you hear these stories of people just seeing like women in white walking the road, but the fact that this one jumps in front of your car.
You know, you usually hear the ghostly hitchhiker. You know, she's a lady in white. She hitches a ride,
right,
and then you turn around and she's disappeared. But I've never heard of the one where she jumps in front of your car.
I mean, that kind of adds a little creepiness to it. And then this one, you know, I don't remember. Out of hearing all these tales multiple times, this one I don't remember this one, but it was on the same site, so I thought I'd include it, where they say there's a summer camp nearby, and in the 1930s, apparently the kids that went there were sometimes abused and even killed. So they say that sometimes when driving along the road, you may see a group of ghost kids, that was how they worded it, walking around in 1930s clothing, and as you approach, they disappear. So that's kind of creepy. Hey, it's bad enough seeing kids in 1930s clothing, always looks creepy enough. The fact that you're seeing them out of place and then disappear is extra, gets creepy. And this one's my favorite. And this is the one I saw, this last one. This is my favorite one. This is the one I always like tell people if I tell one of these stories. And I saw this on the Travel Channel where they did a reenactment from it. And it still kind of creeped me out. But, and Tim, this is the one you said you knew about. Okay, so this one, basically involves a police officer who was shot and killed on Sweet Hollow Road. So the legend says that, you know, when you're driving at night, you get pulled over by an officer. Basically comes up to your vehicle, asks for your license, asks you a couple of questions, then lets you go. But they say that people, when you turn and look at him going back, the back of his head has been blown off. And he gets into the car and goes away. So like that one, and that one's creepy. And if you saw the reenactment on the Travel Channel, it was extra creepy. So every time I read or tell the story about, you know, mention this, I have that imagery in my head. So it's good. But again, you know, they preface it with saying that I guess not preface, but they kind of tag it at the end here that you know, there's no proof of a police officer ever being shot and killed on that road, but you know, who knows what records were like when these things happened, and you know, or whatever. But I still think that it's still definitely on the creepy side, if you want to believe
that's
that.
a great one because it's kind of got a horror element to it.
Right. And if not, I could just see that being an opening scene to a horror movie. That whole sequence.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I have one here. It's a famous one in our town, The Ghost of Samuel Jocelyn. And I like this one because it's got a good amount of history behind it. And it also features one of my biggest fears, which is being buried alive.
Oh, yeah.
So the year is 1810, and Samuel Jocelyn gets in an argument with his wife at a hunting lodge in the Honey Island Swamp. So another domestic dispute leads to tragedy.
You know, and it's funny. Didn't you mention that once? Now, sorry to interrupt, but didn't you mention that was a lot of the times those the same theme to those Vault of Horror kind of thing? Yeah, it's funny how that's. It must be That's why I think those are so good because they're based on these kind of stories.
Yep. So he basically leaves late at night on horseback. It's the middle of winter, but he's so mad he just takes off. And at some point in his journey, he's apparently thrown from his horse. And I've heard differing tales of how he died. You know, he hit his head on a rock when he was thrown, or he landed in the icy water. But at either rate, his body is found by a search party the next day, and they bury him in the St. James Episcopal Church cemetery downtown. That cemetery dates back to the 1700s, to give you an idea of how old the city is. And I've been in the cemetery many times. In fact, if you go, when we were in elementary school, we would do these historic field trips, and you always went to the cemetery and heard the story of Samuel Jocelyn. That was a regular occurrence back in my elementary school days. So anyway, for 3 days, Samuel appears in the dreams of his two good friends, begging them to dig up his body. So night after night, he appears in their dreams saying, "I've been buried alive. Dig me up, dig me up."
Thanks.
Well, the friends are finally driven to the point where they go, we've got to dig up his body. Like, we're being tormented by these horrible nightmares. So they dig up his body, and what they find is horrifying. Samuel had apparently been buried alive. His fingers are worn down to the bone, bloody stumps of where he's tried to scrape and claw his way out of the coffin. Now, to this day, people call this, say that this cemetery is haunted, and people have reported seeing an apparition leaning on the tombstones at night. Now, there is no actual tombstone for him, and there's differing reasons why people say there's no tombstone anymore, whether it was stolen, or if it was never there at all, or if because of the stories they just took it up, or whatever happened. But if you go on the ghost tours and stuff from Wilmington, the guides will kind of point you generally where they believe the grave was. But I like this story because it's got that historical element, and there's actually, I believe, there's some pretty good evidence that this actually happened. At least, maybe not the paranormal dream part, but at least that somebody was indeed buried alive there, which did happen back in the day.
Yeah, and actually, as you were telling that story, it seems like I may have heard that. Maybe I've seen it on Travel Channel also or something, because that one sounds really familiar. I remember that whole thing with the clawing.
Yeah, it's a very famous story.
That one's cool. I like that. That'd make a good, if they didn't have it already, that would be like a good little short story kind of thing.
Yep, that one's popular on the ghost tours around here.
The power of podcasting can get us back from North Carolina to Long Island in a snap of our fingers. But so probably next to Amityville Horror, this may be probably one of the most famous of our area stories here, which is Lake Ronkonkoma. This lake is located on Long Island. It's pretty decent size, about 2 miles in circumference and about a half mile in width. Now, most of the lake is only 15 feet deep, and the deepest spot is approximately 65 foot deep. Now, I know that some people say there's spots on there that there's no bottom or something. There's little tales of that, but the main tale about this lake is about a Native American princess who was in love with a white colonist. They were supposed to be married, but it was prevented in some way. And this is where, depending on who tells the story or what historian is giving you this tale, difference. I think one time it was the the Indian chief, I guess, he may have said he didn't want it happening, or sometime I think some stories tell the town didn't want. Nevertheless, the basic is so they were prevented from being married, and so the princess is so overcome with guilt that she basically rows her canoe to the center of this lake, ties a rock to her body, and vows to avenge the fact that she couldn't get married by once a year taking the life of a young man by drowning him in the lake. And then she proceeds to throw the rock in, and she kills herself and drowns. So the legends say that every year, at least one person drowns in the lake, and it's almost always a male. So, you hear from some people, they're telling you, oh yeah, every year someone dies in the lake, which some places have been proven to be false. I mean, it is a lake. It's a big touristy area in the summer, so it's not surprising that there are accidents that happen in there. But if you choose to believe in the legend, then we know what's happening, really. But, and just another side note is some people, this one I haven't heard of as much, but it's kind of cool, so I want to add it. They said that supposedly there's, and this was in my book, actually, too, on Long Island Haunts, I think I read, where some people see ice skaters on there, and when they look closer at them, they seem to be wearing older period clothing, and some people have gone to say that the lake isn't even completely frozen, yet they see them skating out there. Which is kind of gives you, right? That's a little a little chill. So thanks again, by the way, to it was Long Island, LIParanormalinvestigators.com. I got a lot of these, couple of these facts from just to fact check. I mean, a lot of these stories you hear, but I wanted to get some of the finer details. So they do that. They've also tried to go out there and disprove some stuff and come up with a thing, but they're pretty cool site with a lot of stuff. I mean, there must have been 30 things on there. For all the different haunts on Long Island.
Cool. All right. Well, I have one here, which is probably our most famous haunted location in Wilmington and probably one of our biggest tourist attractions. And that is the battleship USS North Carolina. Now, this battleship is docked in Wilmington, and you can do tours on it. They have daily tours, and it's really cool because I've been to the battleship many, many times, being a local. But every time I go, I still have a great time because they basically let you have the run of the ship. I mean, obviously there's some areas that are roped off, but you can actually climb down the hatches and go through all these rooms and go through all the hallways and climb up in the gun turrets and all cool. That stuff. So it's very hands-on. So it's not like you're being confined to this careful little hallway with a tour guide and all that. There are no tour guides. You just get on the ship and go. And you can just crawl and walk all over the place. So it's really fun. And if you, Brian, if you ever come down here, I'll definitely take you and Julie.
Yeah, no, we'd love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, if you love history, and especially if you love World War II stuff, I mean, it is fascinating to see. You can almost see the sailors in there, not from a ghost perspective, but from just from the atmosphere. Because everything's preserved and looks exactly like it did back then during the war.
Oh, see, I love that stuff. I like it. And especially I love the fact that you said you're not like restricted to their tour schedule or something. You can just go on and explore.
No, it's awesome. Really, really, really cool monument. At one point, and I'm disappointed I never did this, but I don't know if they still do it, but they used to have an actual show where you would go out and sit in chairs like in front of the ship. And then they would do like a radio, almost like a radio drama, and they would have light effects and sound effects like the guns going off and everything to like put you back in the time period of a battle. But basically, this battleship served in every major Pacific battle of World War II, and her role was to protect aircraft carriers, which she did a darn fine job of, because she only lost 10 sailors in the entire war.
That's a good ratio.
Yeah, and this, I believe that ship held something like 1,800 crew.
Ooh.
So she only lost 10 soldiers in the whole war, but many believe at least one or two of them still remain on board. The most common sighting is of a young blonde sailor apparition, but there's been a lot of numerous things reported from the caretakers of the ship and guests and even ghost hunters, because the battleship's pretty lenient about letting ghost hunter tours on. So there's been a lot of not just local investigators, but even Taps from the Ghost Hunters show on Sci-Fi did a couple of episodes.
Oh, I think I might have seen one of them. I think that's now that you said that, it kind of seems familiar.
Yeah, when Taps went and visited, I think they captured some EVPs and they chased an apparition down into a room that had no exit, so they didn't think it was a person. They thought they saw a shadow figure or whatever and chased it down. But stuff like that's been reported. Shadow figures, apparitions, knocking sounds, footsteps, electrical anomalies, lights going on and off, hatches and doors opening and closing by themselves. The battleship kind of takes that's not their main primary focus, obviously. It's not that it's a haunted battleship. Their primary focus is to teach history about World War II, but they also don't shy away from the ghost stuff. So like in their gift shop, you can find books on the ghost of the battleship North Carolina and that kind of stuff.
They hate it if you and I both went on there, because at the same time we'd be asking them, all right, all right, we get the history, but so about this ghost.
Yeah, but so they kind of embrace it as part of the fun of this monument. And but yeah, it's a really cool place, and I can't wait to take our kids back, because we haven't been since they were babies, really. So I can't wait to take them back now that they're older and could understand a little more of the history and stuff.
Oh yeah, plus
but if we
the climbing in turrets, your son will love that. That'd be cool.
So if we do that, I'll be sure to take some pictures for the Instagram page or whatever.
Definitely.
Since it's a supposedly haunted site.
Definitely. Okay, so I'll finish it up with these last two, back to Long Island again. And these actually, I can post a link to these articles. They were actually written by my brother Jeremy for the patch of the, I think they were West Hampton patch, they were considered. But they both take place in Hampton Bays. The first one was at this restaurant, which I frequent all the time. It's one of my favorite restaurants out there. They have an amazing duck, by the way. Just so people in Long Island, you ever go, it's Villa Paul. It's the restaurant in Hampton Bays. And, so anyway, just a little bit about the places. The property was used to be the estate of a local judge, and actually the present restrooms were once birthing rooms, which also doubled as makeshift mortuaries when residents passed away. So right there, yeah, you got a setting right there for this little tale here. And and it also happens to border a former cemetery. However, you wouldn't know because there were no longer any signs, because the judge's widow had all the headstones removed in hopes to make the property more valuable. So sounds like Poltergeist a little bit. Hey, you didn't. You took the tombstones, but you left the bodies. So some of the things that were spotted in this restaurant, supposedly were a lady specter, and that was spotted by two patrons. I actually saw this. A phantom pooch that darts across the bar area and disappears. And one of the ones that my brother actually, I guess, quoted, because he interviewed the owners. We kind of know the owners there because we're there so much. He was this one employee who was a true, staunch non-believer. Said he spotted a man in period clothing walking from the kitchen and through a wall into the private events room. So after he saw that, he became a believer. And one of the most, if you want to go for, I guess, proof, I say that with a grain of salt because everyone, has these things that, quote unquote, proof. My brother actually put this picture in the article, which I'm going to send Tim right when I'm done speaking, so you'll get his reaction live to this. So basically what it is the daughter of the owner, I guess, they were doing some promotion for the restaurant, and she was viewing the picture that they took. I don't know if it was for the local paper or for, they have these, local area papers where they promote all restaurants in. So it may have been for that. But so she asked her mother, she says, why did you take the picture with someone standing in the corner? It makes the picture look kind of funny. So the mother said, well, the picture was taken early in the morning with nobody else in the restaurant. So I sent it on our, to the private message for you, Tim, the picture. So when you open it, make sure you open it to the full thing and look to the very right of the picture.
Okay, I'm opening it up now.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, that is creepy.
Yeah. So, yeah, and at the right end. And the funniest thing is after they realized that, they kind of tried to replicate it with I guess, different people standing there to see if it was a shadow or not, but they could not replicate that. And they had no explanation.
Yeah, so you'll have to post this one.
Yeah, I gotta get the permission from my brother and the patch, maybe possibly, but I'll ask him.
Yeah, there's an unmistakable figure on the right hand side of the picture.
Yeah, and it's definitely the shape of a person. Whether I mean,
it's unmistakable.
Yeah, I mean,
it doesn't. It looks solid.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it literally looks like someone is standing there. So, and I've seen this picture many a time. So, and it's funny actually. If you look at the other window, it almost looks like two people are standing there. But I think that's just that looks like a reflection of something, because this thing looks 3-dimensional, as if it's standing away from the wall a little bit.
Yeah, like the skeptic in me would say, no, you were mistaken. There was a real person there, because you could see some of the light. Almost looks like it's coming off the shoulder.
Yeah,
of the person.
I mean, it definitely, yeah. And they have claimed many a times. They said when the mother took the picture, she was the only one in that restaurant when that picture was taken. So
yeah, that's really, really creepy.
Yeah, that was a good one. And another one my brother wrote about, and this is actually is maybe like 5 minutes from this restaurant where this is. It's the Ghost of Red Creek, they call it, and this one, it's funny. I had so much trouble finding anything other than my brother's article on it, but I've heard the story because it's through my stepdad's family side there, and her I guess his uncle was the one that used to tell the story to one of our cousins, and she was the one that told it to us. So apparently, what it was about a spirit of a colonial woman who haunts passing motorists on this backwoods shortcut. And
she's like, what is that iron beast?
Yeah. And it's so funny because I've gone on this road a bunch of times, and I'm like actually looking for this thing, even though I I don't know if this when he saw it was at night, but so supposedly the story was is they were the encounter that they had is they were driving when he was a teenager, so years ago, because when I heard the story, the guy, I think he had already passed away, and he was in his 70s, so you're talking a long time ago. So anyway, they were driving on the road, I guess, with him and his friends, and they looked out the car window, and they saw this woman gliding along outside their window at the same speed their car was going.
That makes me think of Salem's Lot.
Yes, yeah, like that.
Ugh.
And they said, and the spirit was just looking at them. So, usually you figure, okay, these things like that, you go away and they don't follow you. So they all screamed, and he floored it, and the ghost basically seemed to be keeping pace with their vehicle still, even as they floored the thing. So it's like, that's the part that always creeped me out, because I'm like, I love that part of the story, the fact that supposedly this spirit keeps up with whatever speed your car is going.
That is freaky.
Right? I mean, that's like, okay, if this thing actually happens, literally, then how are you ever escaping? But apparently, I think it's once you get to the end of this road, it goes away. But I'm telling you, to me, that's the creepy. Can you imagine just going like at 60 miles an hour on this, and this thing is like pacing your car?
Oh my gosh,
yeah. That's very so, yeah, so I'll send the link to those. I'll have to talk to my brother, see if he has any more like facts about it too. We can post with it, because he's wrote a couple of books. He's a big train expert, but he does love to kind of real life paranormal stuff. So he wrote two good articles that I'll link on the site about these two. It goes in a little more detail. It goes in definitely some more detail on the restaurant and the haunt, and he's got a good way with words. So he really cultivates the tale really well. So,
well, cool. That was a fun episode.
Yeah, no, this is fun. I mean, it's cool, like, to do these off-topic episodes every once in a while, and just a little behind-the-scenes tidbit is Tim and I actually always kind of wanted to include, like, a little bit of these kind of things in the regular episodes of the show, like a little segment, but just the way we ended up doing it, we found it was already going so long with all our other topics on it. We figured we'd axe the that section, but so it's good to kind of have a forum now to kind of get these back in there, and I'm sure we'll do a couple more episodes like this throughout the year, especially around the haunt season. I'm sure we'll have a very haunt-centric episode.
Yeah, and if you guys have any stories, definitely send them in, because we'll probably use them on a future mini episode.
Yeah, or maybe as a bonus feature one time, we'll just record some of these haunted tales in Tim's dulcet tones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we could always, even if we don't necessarily have to use these as replacement episodes, we could actually have them as bonus additional episodes during our regular week.
Right.
And, if we get enough stories. So if you want to hear more of that, send them in to civilgorepodcast@gmail.com or post them on our Facebook page.
Yes. All the media sources we have there. We got a ton.
Yep. All right, guys. We'll see you back here next week.
You got it.